Hey guys, it's Raul again, and today I'll be sharing with you some recommendations for March Mystery Madness. So if you guys haven't watched my announcement video for March Mystery Madness this year, I will link it somewhere on the screen if you guys want to go ahead and watch that. But I am one of the co-hosts this year of March Mystery Madness, and this year's theme is Titlerific 2021. So there are a lot of prompts that we have to find kind of titles that match with these prompts. I am yet to be 100% set on my TBR, but I figured I would give you guys some recommendations if you guys are looking for some things that might fit some of these prompts. If you guys don't have your TBRs set yet, if you guys don't really know what you want to read yet for March Mystery Madness, I figured this would be a great opportunity to recommend some of my favorites that fit some of these prompts. Now, I don't have books for every single prompt. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a book that fit every single prompt on my shelf, but most of the prompts are taken care of in these book recommendations. The first prompt is single, so a title of a book that's just a single word. For this, I have two recommendations. They're both by the same author. You'll see I have a lot of books from this same author just because I've read a lot by this author. And the first recommendation I have is Watchers by Dean Koontz. If you guys haven't read anything by Dean Koontz before, I highly recommend you guys checking him out. I know he's kind of a hit or miss author for a lot of people. A lot of people absolutely love his stuff. Others, despise it. I am one that absolutely loves it. And Watchers is definitely one of his better novels. It's kind of well known for being one of his best novels, and this is a kind of adult mystery, somewhat science fiction-y type of read that follows our main character who finds this dog out in the woods, and this dog is insanely smart. I guess he's escaped from some kind of laboratory. And the dog can kind of, speak in certain ways or can kind of communicate in special ways. And from the same laboratory, there's this creature that's hunting this dog that has escaped as well from this laboratory. So you have kind of this whole thing going on between this terrifying creature and this very smart dog that both escaped from the same laboratory. And then you have our main character who is, I believe he's a widow. And he's kind of figuring all of this stuff out. He ends up falling in love. There's this great romance throughout this one as well that is not corny or cheesy or anything at all, which I really, really enjoy. But something that I highly recommend if you guys are looking for a title with just a single word. I also have Velocity by Dean Koontz, which is another recommendation for this one. And this is more if you guys want something a lot quicker. Watchers is a lot longer. It's a little bit slower paced. Velocity is super fast paced. I figured, you can get through this one in just a couple of days. So another really good recommendation that I highly recommend. This kind of follows this man who receives this note one day, and on this note he's told that if he tells the police about something, one person will die. If he doesn't tell the police about it, another person will die, and he kind of thinks that it's all a joke until he doesn't do anything. When he receives the first note, one person actually ends up dying, and then he kind of goes on this whole cat and mouse type thing where he's receiving these strange notes, doesn't know who's giving it to them, doesn't know why this random person has selected him to receive these notes, and it's very fun, very fast paced, and just like a great thriller. If you guys are looking for something fast paced, I highly recommend this one. And for the next prompt number, I recommend 5 Midnights by Anne Davila Cardinal. This is a YA mystery, thriller, horror, suspense that takes place in Puerto Rico. It follows our main characters as they're kind of trying to solve this mystery of El Cuco, which is kind of like this like the boogeyman in Hispanic cultures. There are these teenagers that when they come of age, they turn 18, and this kind of monster goes out to kill them. So they're kind of trying to figure out why these kids are being hunted down by this strange entity, why they're all, how they're all connected, what's going on, and trying to kind of solve this mystery of the supernatural entity within Hispanic culture. I really, really love this one. This is definitely one that I recommend, a very short read again, so it's perfect kind of to throw into these kinds of readathons where you can kind of get through more books within the month of March. So one that I recommend for this prompt. And for the next prompt person, I have another Dean Koontz book, and that is Odd Thomas. Odd Thomas is one of my absolute favorite series by Dean Koontz. I really, really enjoy this series. I have yet to complete it, but I'm hoping that I can complete it very soon. But Odd Thomas is a character who can see ghosts. Ghosts kind of come to him and kind of try and tell him certain things, but they can't really speak. So he doesn't really know. He has to kind of figure out on his own what these ghosts are trying to tell him by coming to visit him. And in this first novel, he is kind of introduced, you're introduced to this whole world of Odd Thomas, everything that he kind of experiences and the certain things that he sees. There are these strange shadowy creatures in this world called Bodaks, and Bodaks kind of show up when there's some kind of murder or violent act or death is kind of revolving in the air. So the more kind of Bodaks that he sees, the kind of greater the tragedy or the greater the death is going to be. So in this first novel, he kind of, he's in the small town, he begins to see a large amount of Bodaks kind of showing up out of nowhere. So he has to kind of figure out what's going on, why these things are all of a sudden showing up out of nowhere, what's going to take place in this small town that is attracting all of these shadowy creatures. And yes, another just very, very fun read. Definitely one of Dean Koontz's best. A lot of people really enjoy the first one and don't really love the other books in the series. So if you only read the first book in the series, that's great. I mean, they're all kind of somewhat companion novels, so you don't really have to continue on with the series if you don't want to. But definitely I would highly recommend checking out Odd Thomas if it sounds interesting to you. And the next prompt is place, and for that I have yet again another Dean Koontz book, and that is 77 Shadow Street. This is very, very creepy. If you guys have played the video game Silent Hill or watched the movie, this kind of gave me somewhat of those vibes when I was reading this book. This follows the residents of 77 Shadow Street. It's kind of this, very luxurious type of apartment complex where, strange things start happening. One night people kind of start disappearing, and then there's kind of strange events start happening within 77 Shadow Street, and all of the residents are kind of trapped in this place trying to figure out what's going on. Why can't they leave? Why are these strange things happening in this place? And yes, very interesting. This one is definitely on the longer side, so it's one that I recommend if you guys have the time to get through kind of these longer books, but very interesting, very creepy, very suspenseful, and yes, one that I think fits perfectly into this prompt. And for the next prompt, Weather, I recommend Category 5 by Ann Davila Cardinal. This is the second book in her Five Midnights kind of companion series. I mean, you could technically read this one on its own. It follows kind of different events from the first book, even though it follows the same main characters. But it revolves around a different mystery entirely. This takes place after the events of Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, and there are certain, things that kind of are disturbed after the hurricane. There's construction going on the island that has disturbed these entities and these ghosts that have been sleeping for a very, very long time. And these kind of main characters are again trying to solve this different mystery that's going on around these different events. And another one that I recommend as well. Another very short one, another good one to kind of add to a readathon, and one that it's just very, very fun to read as well. Now for the next prompt, Color, I don't have anything on my shelves. Color has been a very, very difficult prompt for me to find because, yes, it's just, I don't know, I'm having a hard time finding something with color, but the prompt after that is Time, and for Time, I found a good recommendation, and that is Full Dark No Stars by Stephen King. I'm throwing this into Time. I feel like it fits well into Time because Full Dark No Stars is kind of a time of day. It's very, very dark out. So to me, I guess it makes sense. But this is one of Stephen King's kind of short story collections. This one has 4 short stories that I remember absolutely loving when I first read it. I think this was one of my first Stephen King novels that I ever read, and I really, really enjoyed it. Again, 4 different short stories. I'm not going to get into the synopsis of all of the short stories within this one, but another one that I highly recommend if you guys want to read maybe some short stories throughout March Mystery Madness. Another one that I really recommend because these are very, very good short stories. And for the next prompt, Space, I have Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. Another one that I'm kind of, making it fit into this one. I mean, Behind Closed Doors is somewhat of a space in a house. I mean, it seems kind of confined when I hear this title, Behind Closed Doors, so I'm making it fit into this prompt. But Behind Closed Doors follows this couple that is newly married. They go off on their honeymoon, and there is kind of some tension going on between these two people. There's kind of a secret that the wife is keeping. The husband doesn't really seem like he's the greatest of people at all. They're kind of keeping the secret. And you're jumping back and forth between time. So you're on their honeymoon, and then it jumps back to, I believe, when they first met. and it's kind of, these two stories are kind of converging into one. But this was one of my, I think my first B.A. Paris book that I ever read. I read her books last year or the year before that for March Mystery Madness. I think it was 2 years ago for March Mystery Madness, and I read every single B.A. Paris book that she had come out with at the time, and I absolutely loved her as an author. Behind Closed Doors is awesome. I think it's a great adult mystery thriller that I highly recommend if you guys haven't checked it out. But yes, one that I just, it's very quick to get through, one that I feel that is perfect for this kind of readathon, and one that I feel will somehow fit this prompt of space. And the last prompt is the bonus prompt, which is a title that kind of grabbed your attention. So for that, I've chosen And the Trees Crept In by Dawn Kurtagich. This is a YA kind of psychological mystery. I really enjoy psychological mysteries, things that kind of mess around with your head. You're not really sure what's real, what's not real, if the things that they're experiencing are really happening at all, if these characters are unreliable narrating their story or not. So this is definitely one that I feel like with the title, there's an eeriness to this title. There's kind of this thing that kind of invites you to kind of figure out what is going on in this story. It follows two sisters that are kind of escaping a bad situation that they're in, and they go to live with their aunt, who lives kind of in the middle of nowhere in this big house, and the aunt is somewhat of mentally unstable. She's not letting the girls leave after they get there. She's saying that there's something strange in the forest, that there's this very tall, slender man that's kind of stalking them, and they're not allowed to go out, that the forest is kind of creeping in on them and kind of overtaking the entire kind of compound where they live. It's very strange. It kind of really keeps you guessing throughout the entire thing, because there are so many things that happen in this book, so many strange things. There's this mysterious boy that shows up out of nowhere, and yes, it's just a very engaging read, one that I definitely recommend you guys reading. Dawn Kurtagich is an author that I just discovered last year. I read The Dead House, and then I read And the Trees Crept In immediately after that, because I really enjoyed The Dead House so much, and I have her third book on my shelf, which you guys will be most likely seeing on a TBR list later on. So this is one that if you're looking for, you know, a book that kind of brings you in by its title or has some kind of strange title that's very enticing, I highly recommend you guys checking this one as well. So yeah guys, that is it for some recommendations for March Mystery Madness. Comment down below, let me know if you guys will be participating in March Mystery Madness this year, what kind of things you guys are thinking about reading, if any of these recommendations kind of sparked any interest in you, please let me know. Before you go, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I post videos every Tuesday and Friday. Thank you guys all again for watching, and I will see you all next time.